You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, episode 28.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast, the #1 resource for growing your function musician business. If you're a solo wedding singer, part of a 12-piece luxury show band, or anything in between, and want to learn from other successful musicians, you're in the right place.
You're listening to the Full-Time Function Musician Podcast. I am your host, Jack Twiner. If this is your first time listening, then welcome. If you're a regular listener, then welcome back. This podcast exists to help function musicians who are looking to grow their business, looking to book more gigs, hear some inspiring stories, and just generally learn from others who've been doing it successfully for years. So today's episode is going to be another solo episode, my second ever solo episode, so it'll probably be a little bit shorter than normal, but it's an important subject and one I should probably have done a bit sooner actually. We talk a lot on here about all the different things that you need to do in your business, and hopefully that's all helpful, but really the most important thing that everything else boils down to, and the key to having a healthy business that isn't killing you and taking up all your time, and that is lead generation, client acquisition, whatever you want to call it. Basically getting consistent gigs with your ideal clients. That's the dream. That's really what we're all aiming for. Not having to do any gigs that you don't want to do, no bill paying work, just stuff that you really want to do. Getting paid what you deserve to get paid as well. And that all comes down to lead generation, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. So if your calendar is not filled up with your ideal gigs, then you need to start taking this part seriously. 90% of people that start their business, the first thing they do would be to get some business cards printed, which is exactly what I did when I first started my first business. I paid a designer and got like 1,000 printed, and I don't think I ever even gave out one. So please don't waste your money on that. But anyway, the next thing people do is they might get a show reel made, which is a great decision. And they may also get a website, which is also a great idea. And then they put that video on their website, or maybe on YouTube, and that's it. Then they sit back and wait for the bookings to start coming in. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. They might get a couple of hits on the website and maybe a few views on YouTube as well, which it will be mainly from your friends and family. I'm not trying to call anyone out here, but I've seen it so many times and I've been there myself as well. So there's a famous saying from the movie Field of Dreams: if you build it, they will come. And that is generally the approach most people to take when they are starting a business. But of course, it doesn't work like that, and you need some sort of plan to get people to your website and to view your show reel on YouTube. And that's where that's what we're gonna talk about today. A few different strategies that you can use to make this happen. So let's start with the basics. What is a lead? A lead is basically anyone that could potentially become a future client, and they come in a few different forms. Firstly, you have cold leads. A cold lead is one that doesn't really know you exist yet, or maybe they do, but they haven't shown any interest in working with you, but they do fit your ideal client avatar. And just a side note, you really should know what your ideal clients are, or who they are, before you start reaching out to them. So for example, and I'll probably use this example throughout just because it's an easy one for everyone to understand. But if you're a wedding singer, then the people getting married or wedding planners are your ideal clients. That's the people that you're advertising to. And also go back and listen to episodes 17 and 18. If you haven't already, they go into detail about niching down, which is another important part of knowing who you are advertising to. And if you try to appeal to everyone, then you end up appealing to no one. So cold leads are the hardest to convert into clients because they have no idea that you exist yet, but not impossible. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Next up, you have warm leads. A warm lead is someone who is already familiar with your business and maybe even contacted you before about your services, but the timing wasn't right or something. Or they follow you on Instagram and have liked a few of your posts, but haven't made any contact yet. And lastly, you have hot leads. Hot leads are people who are ready to book. Maybe they filled out your contact form on your website asking for a quote, or maybe they've messaged a few different wedding singers on Instagram, and you're one of them. There are a couple of other lead types, but it gets a bit more complicated, and I don't really think it's necessary for this episode anyway. So we know the different kind of leads, but now what is lead generation? Lead generation is the process of attracting and converting potential clients interested in your services. For function musicians, this means identifying your ideal clients. That could be individuals, as we said, event planners, bars, anything that basically needs music. Back to our wedding singer example, that would be people that are getting married, and again, wedding planners. So why is lead generation important? The main reason, consistent income. As I mentioned at the start, I'm sure we all know the feast and famine months of being self-employed. One month you've absolutely killed it, and the next month you've made absolutely nothing. I've been through it many times, and it actually wasn't that long ago where I had the best month I've ever had, and then the worst month I've ever had straight after. So it's really hard to plan and maintain a certain lifestyle with massive swings in income. But having a proper lead generation strategy can bring consistency and steady streams of gigs in every month. Perfect. So it can also help with cash flow. Most businesses fail because they run out of money, not because they are a bad business. So cash flow is critical to your business success as well. You can go back and listen to episode 23 if you want to learn a bit more about cash flow with our episode on bookkeeping and accounting with Catherine Vincent. Another reason that lead generation is important is because you cannot rely on word of mouth. Don't get me wrong, word of mouth is great, but unfortunately you can't control or rely on it. Don't fall into the word of mouth death trap. And the word of mouth death trap is an idea that people that are just starting their businesses or early on in their career believe that the most important thing for the success of their business is word of mouth. And they believe this because the people that they look up to, the people they follow on Instagram that have made it, the people that have been doing this for years, only now rely on word of mouth. So if you were to ask them, they're like, yeah, I just rely on word of mouth. That's all I do. No advertising. But they are some of the lucky few that managed to make it that far using word of mouth, which is not many people, to be honest. And you don't hear all the stories of the hundreds of failed businesses that it didn't work for. So those people are the exception, not the rule. So again, word of mouth is great, but you can't control or rely on it, at least not at the start. So how do we generate leads? I've got 7 different strategies here that you can use to generate leads. I'm just going to list them out and then I'll go into a bit of detail about each one. Firstly is online presence. Then you've got content marketing, networking, email marketing, paid advertising, collaborations, and then cold outreach. So back to the start, having a good online presence. So this one is pretty simple, but having social media, that can be, you could just have one social media channel or you can use all of them. You just got to find whatever works for you. I pretty much just stick to Instagram, but alongside your social media, having a good website is important, something that you can find on Google. Back to our wedding singer example, your Instagram shows that you're a wedding singer. It says that in your title, and your content is aimed at people getting married. And the same with your website, your branding and images and videos all scream wedding singer. This is all important because it gives people social proof. And back to our different types of leads, let's say a couple that are getting married, they are searching for a wedding singer. They don't yet know you exist, but somehow they managed to stumble across your Instagram page. They need to immediately know that you're the right fit for them. And if you've done that properly, they will be able to see that. And so they click onto your website, look through your packages, maybe some of your reviews, and it all suits them perfectly. So they fill out your contact form. Unfortunately, it never really works that quickly though. Generally, people will want to follow you for a little while and sort of get to virtually get to know you. There's another saying that to make a sale, your client first needs to know who you are. They need to like you and they need to trust you. Know, like, and trust. And that's what we're trying to do with having a solid online presence. So yeah, that's good looking social media channels and a nice website is an easy place to start. I would highly recommend taking a look at Lily Kirby's. She was on episode 18. Check out her Instagram and website, as I think she's really done it perfectly. And she's booked up for like 2 years in advance. So she's obviously doing something right. Number 2 on my list is content marketing. This is probably my favorite on the list and the strategy that I use for my business. So content marketing is creating valuable content for your ideal clients. And the key word there is valuable. It must be valuable content or it doesn't work. Now, this can come in a few different forms, such as blog posts, social media videos, YouTube videos, or even a podcast. If you hadn't realized already, this podcast is my form of content marketing, giving away as much free advice as I can and hopefully making a great show that you enjoy. And one day, if you're thinking, I really need a new show reel or a logo or a website, that guy with the really annoying voice who does that podcast that I love, he makes those things. So I'll give him a message. And if you never need any of those things from me, that is absolutely fine as well. Just enjoy the podcast. So back to our wedding singer example, maybe your Instagram is full of videos with advice for brides. Or maybe you start a wedding podcast. I don't know, but whatever you decide, again, it's just key. The key is just making sure that it's valuable content that you'll create and for your ideal client as well, obviously. Next up is networking. This one's pretty straightforward. That can be networking online or in person, industry events such as wedding fairs, being a part of online groups, anywhere that you can potentially meet clients or gatekeepers, such as wedding planners or event planners as well. Number 4 is email marketing. Now, I've mentioned email marketing a few times on the podcast, but I've never really gone into too much depth about it. And maybe I should really do a proper episode about just that because it's quite a deep subject. But basically, building a mailing list so that you can regularly pop up in people's inboxes. And the point here is really to stay top of mind. You can also reuse your content that you've been creating here so that the emails are valuable as well. There are loads of benefits to having an email list, but making one does require a fair bit of effort. This isn't just one of those boxes on a website as well that says join my mailing list, because that never works. The idea is that you create something called a lead magnet, which is another piece of valuable content that people will hand over their email address for. Again, it's got to be valuable. And then you can pop up once a week or once a month, just reminding people that you exist, again, giving them more valuable content. And let me know if you think I should do a whole episode on this, because they are great. And yeah, it can be quite intense to make. But yeah, I'll have a think about that. Next up is paid advertising. So this is using targeted online ads to increase visibility, attract potential clients. We've all seen them. They can be super powerful if done correctly, but I don't know enough about them to really talk about it in depth here, but I will absolutely find an expert to come on and go through that properly. Again, it isn't just boosting posts. That hardly ever works. There's a real strategy behind it, and it can be super, super powerful. So yeah, paid ads, we all know what they are, and I'll just leave that there for now until I find an expert. Number 6 on the list is collaborations. This sort of goes hand in hand with networking, but partnering with event planners, venues, and vendors, or probably the biggest one for this industry, agents. There are some great ones out there who are not there just to take your money. They put a lot of time and effort into you as well, building you up. And we've had a couple of really good ones on this podcast. You can go back and check out episode 11 and episode 15, where we talked to Matt and Joey from Dirtbag Entertainment and Danielle Knights from Live and Love Music, both great agents. And last on the list, we have cold outreach. So this goes back to our types of leads, and this is actively reaching out to those cold leads. This is not the easiest strategy, and it's generally a bit of a numbers game. But I guess the easiest example of this would be searching through Instagram and to find people that are your ideal clients and just sending them a message to see if you can work together, or maybe sending out cold emails to venues or something. There are good and bad ways of doing this, which again, maybe I'll go into on another episode. But as I said, it's generally a numbers game. So if you send out 100 messages, you might get 10 replies and then you might get 1 booking. So it's not the best, but it can also be powerful if done correctly. So there we go. Just sum up that list again. Online presence, having a good social media and website, content marketing, that's a powerful one, networking, email marketing, paid advertising, and collaborations and cold outreach. The best strategy really is to focus your attention on one or two of them, like content marketing and maybe some paid advertising, but then also doing a little bit of everything. And if you do that mixed in with a bit of word of mouth, it won't take long until you've got a consistent income that isn't killing you in the process. So I genuinely hope that you've learned something on this episode and enjoyed this episode as well. I hope it's been helpful. Whether you knew some of it or whether you knew none of it, it's good just to be reminded of some things sometimes, or hopefully I've stirred up some ideas for you. If you have found it useful, then let me know. I would love some feedback on this one. And also, actually, if any of you want any help with any of this whatsoever, or you just want to chat through some ideas, 100% give me a message. I love talking about this stuff. I love helping people with this stuff as well. So please feel free to give me a message. I'd love to help you even more if possible. And the best place to do that is to reach me through Instagram, which is @InFocusRecordingCo. Or if you've decided that you want some help with a new show reel or website or logo or anything, you can also hit me up for that. So yeah, that's it for this episode. I'll catch you next week for episode 29. Oh, last thing actually. The things are changing up a little bit and the podcast is going to be a video podcast from now on. I haven't decided exactly what that means, but there will definitely be more video clips on social media, maybe some stuff on YouTube as well. So that's a little bit exciting, well, for me at least. Anyway, yeah, catch you next week for episode 29.